Hey, there's Carl, Infinite Abstractions. We're going to talk a little bit tonight about debunking certain parts of the Christian Bible. And I know it might seem in my early videos here that I'm attempting to take a certain position, which some people could construe as atheism. Religious people might consider it blasphemy or heresy, any given point they wish to make or throw at my direction to label me in some way to suit their own narrow-minded attitudes, whatever the case may be. And it's not even confined to religious people as far as bigotry goes. There are a lot of people that would be in similar school of thought as myself regarding the nature of such things that might not agree with some of the stuff I'm going to say at some points, but I'm putting my voice out here. Hopefully anybody can glean a certain element of truth from the statements that I make. That's all I can hope for. So, as far as the Bible's concerned, in the beginning, God created the earth in 6 days, and seventh day He rested. And there are many reasons to doubt the validity of this assertion. First of all, if God were an all-powerful being and not necessarily subject to time as we know it, there would be no reason to assume, if He was all-powerful, that He would have to take 6 days to create the universe. If He was all-powerful, He would merely be able to snap His fingers or wave His hand or do anything, and that it would all be in existence instantaneously. But of course, in modern physics, we know the law of thermodynamics, the second law of thermodynamics, states energy cannot be created or destroyed. Merely changes its frequency and transmutes into different forms based on the interactivity of different interplays of magnetic fields, gravitational fields, hysteresis, and other physical principles of energy transmissions that cause it to shift its frequency based on the other energies that it's interacting with, generating subharmonics in different spectra, which we know as light, heat, radiation, and cosmic rays and subatomic particles which are ejected from the nuclei of atoms in certain reactions, such as radioactive decay. All those energies that are interplaying are compatible based on frequency relationship principles, and therefore are subject to certain forces and certain stresses based on those fundamental frequencies. Everything that we see in the visible universe has some sort of compatibility because we all can observe those things existing within what we call the third dimension. So therefore those things are compatible to each other. The principles that govern those things, however, aren't necessarily understood. We have a lot of laws that we call laws and theories, postulates, theorems, etc. in modern science, physics, mathematics, that point out the very concrete nature and the consistency with which electromagnetic energy, atomic forms are all propagated and sustained, but we have yet to unveil the true motivating forces behind what gives those things their embodiment in our field of consciousness in the first place. Now, that doesn't mean that God, some celestial being somewhere out there, created these things. There's every reason to believe, based on existing scientific principles, that the force of the universe is not, in fact, God, but is an all-pervading, all-motivating, sustaining libido or drive of an infinite force that gives the embodiment of all things, the ideas and concepts of such things within our own consciousness as being that particular object. The labels we ascribe to things are all encoded somewhere in the universe. We've brought them into realization in our own particular sphere of consciousness and awareness of those things, but they nonetheless exist in a more abstract form as some energy frequency in a higher dimension that is merely brought into our consciousness through that same frequency relationship principle of harmonic regeneration. When we think a thought, it generates a certain electrical impulse in our brain which regenerates sub and super harmonics, just like when you pluck a guitar string that's in tune, say an A string, it vibrates through the air, resonates, and then regenerates those same harmonics in a string in a guitar that's next to it in the room. Those same electronic principles of frequency vibration apply to all things. It's just a matter of what frequency range those things exist in and whether they're compatible to any given medium or not. Now, acoustic vibrations are compatible because they have a certain fundamental frequency. Sound waves can travel at 600 or 700 miles an hour through standard atmosphere here on the Earth. speed of light we have measured at 186,000 miles per second. I'll touch on other different fallacies regarding the notions of transference from point to point as we see it in our observable universe. But nonetheless, for time being, we'll just measure it at 186,000 miles per second. So any given energy is compatible or incompatible with one another based on that frequency principle, and thus all atomic forms share a similar frequency. Existing as atomic forms, the idea of an atom, they all, even if there are a different element, have an analogous or somewhat compatible similar structure regardless of their atomic weight. They assume a certain form in our own awareness as, an apparently dense particle of some sort. Now Einstein, like I've said in one of my other videos, reduced all matter into energy vibrations of a very compact frequency range, and therefore those things resonate out into the space about them certain magnetic lines of force. When you take any sort of metal, that particular thing of the magnetic field resonates into the space about it. When you run electricity through a copper wire, the additional energy which is being resonated to that copper atom is absorbed and therefore can be conducted through the magnetic lines of force radiating from the atomic structures themselves, which we can feel as heat or can hear as some sort of a low buzzing sound.